Hey folks, my name is Andy Sydow. Welcome back to another episode of Middle Class Rockstar. My guest this week is Nikki Gauthier. She's the artistic and creative director at the Acorn Center for the Performing Arts, aka the Acorn, in Three Oaks, Michigan. I'm really excited about this episode for a few reasons. You know, I interview a lot of artists and musicians and kind of hear their story from a human interest perspective, and I love doing that. I also really like having people on that are in different facets of the industry. I have had a talent buyer on before. That's not what Nikki is. Someone else, the Acorn, plays that role. But I haven't had someone like Nikki on yet, and we kind of get to talk shop about booking, whether it's trying to get an established act in, or if you're an up and coming indie artist who's booking. I know, Nikki sees a lot of those emails and a lot of those proposals. And also the Acorn Theater, it's been more than just a venue for me, and I think a lot of other artists too. They really cultivate a community around the theater and what's going on there. It's not just music. It's all the performing arts. But I was in the song contest there last July. I got in the top 6, and I went to perform, and there was 250 people in the audience. The song contest has been going on for, I think Nikki said, 13 years. And everyone was supportive. Everyone was listening. I ended up getting second place, which was really cool. But it's not really about that. It's more about I knew 3 of the other 5 finalists, and I got to hang out with them and catch up, and I made 2 new friends with the other finalists, and I met people that watched the show that liked my music, and I became really good friends with Nikki and her whole family, and everyone at the Acorn. And since that time, Nikki has brought me back to do my own show. She's also brought me back to open for Anders Osborne, who's been a very important figure for my music and for me in general. And the Acorn is bringing me back again on February 7th. I'm doing an orchestra show. If you follow my music at all, I have a record called Measure 1 where I arranged a handful of my songs for a string quartet and French horn. So it's a really special live show. I always use local musicians in the community, give them sheet music, but it's a hard show to put on for a small indie artist. It's hard to do. So I've only gotten to do it a couple times. So I'm really excited. That show will be at the Ghostlight Theater in Benton Harbor, Michigan, again, February 7th. But I'm not saying this to advertise. I just also advertised a little bit. I'm not saying that to advertise. I'm saying it because, I think the art of creating a community as a venue is a lost art. I think as artists, we're expected to, we talk about it all the time. Are you creating a community? What are you giving to your community? Do you have 50,000 followers yet? And of course, that stuff is all well and good. And of course, as an artist, you have to be able to sell tickets, especially if you're going the route of original artist. You have to bring market value when you go out and tour. But, the Acorn and a handful of other venues really kind of do that as well. They have people that look out for their newsletter and will look up their shows that they have coming up and say, that looks cool. And I trust the Acorn and what they book. We're going to go check that out. And they do things like the song contest, and they'll bring the finalists back as opening acts or events for the night. There's different types of series that they put on. So I really wanted to chat with Nikki because they, as a venue, as an organization, are doing what I would like to see a lot of other venues and organizations doing. It is not all about how famous is the artist and how many tickets can they sell. Yes, of course, as I acknowledged, that's a big part of this thing. But the whole community factor, I don't think should be 100% on the artist. I think venues can cultivate a community as well, whether it's through some of these things I've mentioned or a live radio show such as E-Town or Mountain Stage. There's a lot of wonderful opportunities for hosts to create community as well. And it's great for art. It's great for bringing rise to certain artists, to certain communities. It's just a really cool thing. I could ramble about it forever. But I want to get into the interview. We chat about Nikki's upbringing in elementary education and how she then got into the arts. So I'll kind of skip a lot of that intro stuff for now, and we'll just jump into the interview, as I've already talked plenty already. But really quick, if you like this podcast, give it a 5-star rating and review wherever you listen. It just takes a second, and it's really a huge help. And if you're interested in supporting in a monetary way, I'm on Patreon, patreon.com/Andy Sydow, Sydow. And I think that's it. We're going to talk about booking, the process of that. We're going to talk about the song contest. We're going to talk about attracting large artists to a 300 cap room. This is a really interesting episode. So whether you're a music fan or a musician, artist, songwriter, I think this is a really great episode, and there's some really wonderful takeaways here. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Nikki Gauthier. I am here with Nikki Gauthier of the Acorn Theater in Three Oaks, Michigan. Excuse me. Thanks for joining me this afternoon.
Oh my gosh, thanks for asking me, Andy. It's good to see you.
So you are the artistic and creative director at the Acorn Theater. What does that, I mean, first off, before we go back into how you got into this and how you came to the Acorn, what does that job entail exactly?
So they're just fancy words to describe the fact that I am the director of programming and the director of marketing. So I manage all of the events that we book for the theater and all of the marketing for those events. And I also manage our production team. So the team on the ground who's actually executing on the events.
Mm. So how long have you been at the Acorn?
Ooh, I've been at the Acorn about 4.5 years. I actually have my degree in elementary education, of all things, and worked in the education field for a while. And then, like many women, I sort of stepped away from the career side of life to raise children. And when I was re-entering the workforce, discovered that education really just wasn't the right place for me anymore, and ended up applying for this big job that I was completely underqualified for, but it was in an arts center. And I didn't get hired for that job because of course I didn't. I was underqualified for it, but I made an impression, and the person they did hire reached out to me and ended up hiring me as their events manager. And it just sort of started me on this trajectory of working in the arts, and eventually led me to the Acorn.
So this is something that you is not what you trained in originally, not what you saw yourself doing, and yet you ended up here.
Absolutely. No, I didn't train for it at all. But I have been fortunate to be able to build a career around my passions. And so that's just been really wonderful for me, to be able to have a job that is directly related to all the things that I love about life. So I consider myself very lucky for that.
Well, and you've been in the arts for a long time as well. Yes, I mean you love all types of art forms and things of that nature.
I do. I mean, since I was a little girl, I mean, taking piano lessons from my grandma from the age of 5. I've always been around music. I've always had a little interest in the back of my mind in visual arts. Didn't start doing anything with that interest until 8 or 10 years ago. So I'm a painter, I'm a musician, but no, nothing that I was ever trained for. But I've been learning a lot on the job over the last decade of working in the arts.
And will you actually describe the Acorn Theater a little bit? It's I think it's about 300 capacity. Is that right?
It is. We're about an hour and a half outside of Chicago, here in Southwest Michigan, in a little town called Three Oaks. Um, We have the ability to seat about 300 people when we're fully sold out, but we can also set the room and have a very intimate show with 80 people in the room and feel really good about that. We are in a building that used to be a corset factory. So it's a very quirky, sort of unique space. People almost overwhelmingly, every person who walks in will say, wow, this is so cool. What a neat space. You know, it's just sort of the universal response, I guess. I mean, seems to be this sort of impression of this is a really neat space. Um, and the theater's been in existence for over 20 years. It was founded by David Fink and Kim Clark, and then incorporated as a nonprofit in 2015.
Mm. And you do all kinds of different events there, and I see acts, Tab Benoit will come in there, and why can't I think of the lead singer of Wilco's name on the spot?
Jeff Tweedy.
Jeff Tweedy, my gosh.
Literally hanging on the wall behind me.
And I love their music. Yeah, and I just, in the moment, I was like the Yankee Hotel Foxtrot guy. But, anyway, we'll pretend that I didn't forget for a second. But see, you have artists like Jeff Tweedy in there who plays in a gigantic band that sells out Red Rocks come in. And then you also have small indie artists in there. You host contests. How do you strike the balance between all that stuff? I mean, do you look at, say, hey, next March, we want to have X amount of events and we want them to look, these different ways?
So yeah, there's definitely a strategy behind the quantity and the cadence of what we do, but in some ways it's really built around opportunities. And so like you can decide you want to have an artist like a Jeff Tweedy, but you're not going to dictate when that lands on your calendar. And so, hey, there's those dogs you mentioned.
This episode is brought to you by Maggie and Ralphie. If you've ever hosted a podcast and you don't have dogs barking in the background, you need to get yourself Maggie and Ralphie. Shoot me an email. I'll give you a great deal. middleclassrockstar@gmail.com.
No, anyway, you're not going to pick where that lands on your calendar is what I was thinking. It's dictated around opportunities that are brought to you. Over the years, you build relationships with agencies and managers and artists directly, and then you're able to be thought of when someone like a Jeff Tweedy is doing a special tour to celebrate his brand new 3-album release. And so, but with that said, we aim for a certain amount of that type of caliber of artist over the course of the year. But we also exist within a community, and it is always our aim to present things that are attainable for everyone in our community, and also feature artists who are from our community and from our region whenever we can. So there's definitely a focus in just constantly thinking of how to continue to curate a lineup that really speaks to the needs of the community that we aim to serve.
Well, something that I love about the Acorn, and I've mentioned this to you in the past, is a lot of music venues just fill up with their calendar with whatever they can, right? They say, let's get something in here every night or whatever, however often they do it. But it's very much just what can we get in on any given night? Whereas it seems like you really are cultivating community engagement and stuff around what you do. Like there's people that are fans of the Acorn that want to see what's going on at the Acorn and will look at the newsletter and say, oh, this is happening. Cool. I saw this person in the song contest or whatever. And they'll come out for that. And I sort of think that that's become a little bit of a lost art form with music venues. It's become all about the artist getting as many fans as possible, which of course we're trying to do. But I think that your theater has fans as well. And that's a really neat thing. I mean, is there a special secret sauce to how you've managed to do that with your team?
Well, if there was, would I really share it on a podcast? No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, we should back up though to say that the whole reason why you're able to say these kind words about the Acorn and thank you for all of that is because the two of us were acquainted through you being part of that songwriting contest.
Yeah.
And I think that for me, the secret sauce is all about music and live performance as a way to connect and reach the human parts of people. It's so easy to just stay in our homes. We can stream anything we want to, including music. And so, why would anyone need or want to come out to a space like the Acorn or anywhere else? And the truth is, you and I know, as people who are involved in live music on a regular basis, obviously, that the experience that you're going to have in a live music event only happens one time for that one moment. I
Hmm.
mean, I could put the same artist up 7 nights in a row, but there's going to be 7 different experiences.
Hmm.
And, so to me, it's all about connection and relationships and humanity and how music helps to make that possible.
Mm. Mm. And how many things do you on average program in a given month? I know there's factors that you can't take into account, such as you mentioned, Jeff Tweedy has
Sure.
decided he's coming through town the second weekend of March, and you go get him.
Of
But in
course.
general,
So in general, this last couple years, we've averaged between, say, 120 all the way up to about 150 events over the course of the year. And for us in a relatively small community, I mean, we're in a rural setting. We're not drawing from an audience of a city like Chicago where you can program every night of the week. So for us, if that keeps us open at least 2 nights every week out of the year and then some, that's a rigorous calendar.
mm,
So, in the winter months, Southwest Michigan, we're realistic. We try not to fill our calendar too much, just because people do tend to want to stay at home. And then over the course of the spring, we start to ramp up. In the summer, we might have 4 events in a week, sometimes more, sometimes fewer, but over the summer months, never less than 3 events in a week. And then starts to phase out again in the fall, and then the cycle starts over again.
does anything happen in the theater on off days? Does it stay locked, or I mean, did I don't know, churches come in or anything like that? Does anybody rent out the space?
We're available for private rentals. That doesn't happen as often as you might think. But during the week, you'll often find staff there for meetings or for working on the physical space. But generally, we're able to do our work like many people remotely from home. So a lot of times the theater's just waiting for the next experience, just like the rest of us.
Yeah. And some of these events that you do, aside from just from the concerts, right? I know the songwriting contest. I was in that a couple years ago, and that happens every year. And
Every year.
it was packed when I was in there. I don't know what the head count was, but it was absolutely packed, and people
It
were
was about
listening.
two, yeah, it was about 250 people. And you say they were listening. That's the thing people need to know about the Acorn is, I mean, our patrons come to the theater ready to appreciate the experience and the artists, and it's very much a listening room. The singer-songwriter competition, we just finished our 13th year this year. I didn't start that competition. Obviously, it predated me, but I was fortunate enough to inherit it a few years back. And it's truly the proudest thing I work on throughout the course of the year. I start working on that in the winter months. And by the time it reaches the stage in July, I feel like those are my little my little music babies that I'm putting out into the world, and I'm so proud of those artists and happy to know them and to know their music. And I'm just excited to sort of be able to share that with the audience and make sure that they get to know their next favorite artists, I always like to say.
Well, it's well attended, and now, and it doesn't just stop with the contest too. I mean, you've presented, you've had me back a couple times. I see that there's a songwriters round coming up in the near future with a couple past winners and past
Yeah.
finalists and stuff. So you continue to bring people back, and do you get some of that? People that saw them in the contest will come out and see them in concert the next time they're through town.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's part of the commitment that we're making when we crown winners, and even when we name the 6 finalists each year, is that we're now, you're part of our family, and we're looking for ways to offer you performance opportunities in our space and also refer you for performance opportunities in other spaces if I'm able to talk up somebody's music, to a colleague in another venue. Then we're so invested in the songwriters that are part of that contest. And the round that you mentioned, I want to mention that Sadie Gustafson Zook, Emily Barnes, they were both in your year,
Yeah.
and then Kylie Phillips, who won this past year.
That's really neat that they're able to come back. And I love that. I
Yeah.
appreciate that. You mentioned part of the family now. And I really feel that as an artist, and it's really tough out there,
Mm,
to book a tour, and especially as a smaller independent artist, to route the tour, where you can go to different
right.
areas without driving 12 hours a day, like I did yesterday. And, it's a really neat thing that you do for the artists to help kind of keep people going. So, it's greatly appreciated, and I don't know, I just think
Oh,
it's a really neat thing. Uh, it helps indie artists get going. It's not just you have to have 50,000 Instagram followers if you want
right.
to tour
No.
here. Um,
Yeah, no, that's a really important part of our mission. And I mean, interestingly, we had you out in April for your own show, but then as you know, obviously you were back in July to open for Anders Osborne. And I had someone speak to me at that show that came to Anders's show just to see you. And it wasn't your dad. It was a regular patron. But so that answers your earlier question, which is, do people come back? Yes, they do. When they're given the opportunity to experience the artist again, they're going to connect. We had Christopher Gold, who's from Wisconsin, was one of our finalists this year, and I had the opportunity to bring him back right away in August. He actually was the runner-up. He took your spot.
okay.
And I brought him back just a couple weeks later to open for Dave Alvin and Jimmy Dale Gilmore. And the audience response to Christopher for a full length, opening set, because
Yeah.
in the contest you can only play 2 songs, maybe 3 if you've made the second round. But for an opening set, I mean, he got to play 40 minutes of music in front of this, 200 plus room.
Yeah.
And the response was just phenomenal. Then I brought Christopher back in September for a sort of reunion show with our winner Kylie Phillips and her fiance in real life, but the third place finisher, Chris DuPont, and they play as a duo. So I brought the 3 of them back for this sort of reunion show, and again, the response was tremendous to see people who are really connecting to those artists.
You know what? There's a certain demographic of people that listen to this podcast that are songwriters and musicians. Could you give the basic info for how to submit and when to submit for anyone who
Oh,
might be
sure.
interested?
Absolutely. That's a great idea. So we generally open up for submissions in sometime in February. Historically, we announce that through social media and through our emails. It'd be listed on our website, which is acornlive.org. And we give a few months for folks to put together their submissions, but it's required to enter 3 songs. So they have to be original songs, obviously. And there's videos and lyrics submitted for those. Then I compile everything, and we have a jury that ultimately chooses our top 6 who perform each year in July. And when we give out prizes, we've worked hard the last few years to make sure that all 6 of our finalists, not just the top 3 or the winner, everyone leaves with a cash prize. So we're paying every artist that comes into the contest the night of the finals.
And for the piano players entering the contest like me, there's a grand piano on stage.
True, there is. Yes.
You can fly in. You don't have to drive your piano. So something that I've noticed the last couple of years, and maybe you've noticed on even much more than me being on your side of the industry, on your side of the booking, it seems that people wait until closer and closer to the show to buy tickets. Is this a trend you're noticing? And how does that
100%.
How does that affect booking?
Yeah, we're not special, Andy. It's happening to everyone everywhere. I mean, we are special, but in this instance, that's happening to everyone. So I've spoken to colleagues around the country at different venues, and I'm sure you've talked to other musician friends as well. It's just a source of stress and anxiety for all of us, truly, because we're watching numbers, and we know that we need to hit a certain threshold for everyone to have some level of success and have a livable living wage for our musician friends, and also sustainable income for a venue. And it's happening so much more than it used to. I can't really say all the reasons why, but it's something that we do seem to have that uptick in the last week of sales. We try to keep artists calm when that's happening, when we know what our community tends to do or what our ticket buyers tend to do. So we're able to sort of say, it's okay, we're going to have an uptick. So it's our job to sort of try to keep them calmer. Maybe we need to run more closing ads on some shows versus running ads at the beginning of an announcement season or cycle. Nobody's going to really take action at that point anyway, so maybe save the dollars for later. One thing that we did this year was we tried to incentivize people to purchase early by having the ticket price reduced until the week of the show. So if somebody is able to make the decision and purchase a ticket sooner, then they're going to save just a little bit of money on the purchase.
Wow. Yeah, that's a nice way to incentivize. It certainly has given me more anxiety with certain shows. And I just recently had to email a venue back who was worried about ticket sales and say, hey, it's, we're 2 months away. Let's, why aren't you posting about it every day? Is it because it's gonna be more of a turnoff to my audience at this point to post every day with something.
No, you're right. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
But, do you see that a world where that trends back the other way? Or, I mean, how, I know we can't really predict the future, but what do you think is going to happen in the next couple of years?
I wish I could tell you something that you'll want to hear better than this, but no, I don't necessarily see that. I think for a variety of reasons, people are making choices about how they spend their money and when they spend their money and how often they spend their money, and I don't see that changing anytime soon.
I want to talk to you about the process of booking. And I know there's a couple different, number one, I'm sure you just get cold emails probably fairly frequently.
Sure. Yes.
You also see certain people, that happen to be coming through and playing a Chicago date, and then they have a few days off, and maybe you reach out and say, hey, do they want to come play here? But so I guess I want to look at a couple of these different angles. First off, when you see an act coming through that you want to have, how do you go about trying to get them in your venue?
So I actually partner with a colleague who works as our talent buyer. And so he and I will strategize about who we're looking for, and we have built relationships over the years, as I mentioned earlier, with different agencies or managers, or even just with the artist directly. And sometimes maybe you don't know the new agent, but you know the artist, and the artist will tell the agent, hey, talk to this venue. I really like playing there, because we're a 300-seat room for certain caliber artists. We're kind of an underplay for them, but in some cases, that's welcomed by them. Like they want that sort of opportunity to return to the more intimate career beginning days for them, and really connect with an audience. I mean, our artists are very close physically to our artists, and our audience are very physically close to each other. It creates a very nice sense of intimacy and shared experience. And I think artists who come once want to come again. I think audiences who come once want to come again. So these are things we are able to fortunately build on over time. So, if we see something that we're interested in, it's an email, it's a text, it's a call, it's an ask. Sometimes you don't know. I mean, people might think a 300-seat room like ours in Three Oaks, Michigan couldn't have an artist like Los Lobos or Mavis Staples or Steve Earle or Jeff Tweedy or
Right.
Cowboy Junkies or 10,000 Maniacs. And we've had them all. And so sometimes you just have to ask, and maybe there's a way to negotiate on something where it's attainable.
Yeah. And so from the other side of that, you get emails from, I'm sure you get emails from indie artists, who say, hey, I'm so-and-so and I want to come play here. Do you respond to everything first off?
Well, that answer has changed over time. And I guess when I first started, the answer would be yes, I respond to everything. And over time, honestly, and it's one of those, it is what it is. And I'm sorry to say that, no, I do not respond to everything. I simply I don't have the time. We are a very small staff, a small team, a nonprofit. And so that means we're constantly, balancing a pretty heavy load. And I just have to prioritize what I have time for in a given day or a given week. And so I will say that unfortunately, sometimes I'm not able to answer everything when I know it's not going to happen. I wish that were different. I wish I had the sort of the time resource that I need to be able to give the personal answer, even if the answer is, thank you for the note. It's not going to work. Offer some word of encouragement. I simply run out of time to do that. I'm sure you see that on the artist side as you're, and you hate that answer because you're like, just hit reply.
Yeah. I think the most common answer is no reply. And it's very easy to get discouraged about that. I interviewed the band Gold Pine, husband-wife
I'm familiar
duo.
with them. Yes.
Yes, and I got this wonderful clip of Ben, half of Gold Pine, talking about the booking process, how he does 7 follow-ups, and I said, doesn't that irritate people? And he goes, I think we all think that if you don't hear back the next day, that they must hate you. And that's not true. We're just sensitive artists who are very sensitive about our music and stuff. And he goes, I'll keep following up and keep following up. They've had tremendous booking success. And he goes, and after that certain number, we will just lay off. But a lot of times following up has helped us. But it's another interesting facet of that. But yes, I've sent so many emails that don't get responded to. Is there something in particular that you look for in an email with an artist that you might not know yet that could prompt a response or even a show?
Well, first off, that's a great approach that you just shared with Ben from Gold Pine. Sometimes, honestly, my inbox is pretty full sometimes. It could be just that I missed it. So yes, a follow-up is a great strategy. Several follow-ups, actually.
Yeah.
What we need in that email, though, for somebody that we're not familiar with, is I need to hear you. I need to be able to click on an easy link and not have to search it out, to take a listen. Because it all starts with the music, truly. I mean, I told you earlier that for me, the secret sauce is all about the relationships and the connections, but it all starts with good music. And it's kind of like those dating apps, right? I've never used one. I'm sure you never needed one either. But if you did use a dating app, yeah, you want the personality, but you're first attracted to what you're seeing.
Yeah.
In this case, I need to hear something that tells me I want more. Right. And so I want to be able to click on a link and listen, or view a video, even better, so that I can see, and something that is maybe close to live. So I understand, what does this person sound like in real life? Any of the links that you want, a venue to be able to look at, because I know we all hate to acknowledge this, but yes, everybody is paying attention to how many social media followers does everybody have. And that just gives us an indication of whether or not you would have, a following in our area. Those are I think those are probably the things people are doing. It's just, as specific as you can be, as easy as you can make it on the person that's going to open the email. Then that could help.
Is there any credit given to a band or an artist who maybe doesn't have a huge following, but you like what they do and they've played in the area, even if it's at the local brew pub, they've made an
Sure.
effort to come to town a couple times. Does that
Yeah.
do any help?
Yeah, if there's local history, I would want to hear about it. Or even, if you know that you're an artist that not a lot of people might have heard of yet, who are you often compared to? Those type of things. Just help the person who's considering you to know, what type of music is this?
Yeah.
Who what type of fan will this artist appeal to?
Yeah.
Right? Because if you're coming to a location, a region where you're not known, the venue has to have a way to sort of market you to the people in their community. Like, you might not have heard of Andy Sydow, but I'm just using your name as an example. Everyone has obviously heard of Andy Sydow.
Right.
Um, but if you like X, Y, or Z, you're going to love Andy Sydow. You have to have a way to sort of connect. Why does a person care about this name that they may have never heard of?
Yeah. Yeah. Um, Getting into different types of booking too, different types of acts. Tribute bands are big.
Uh,
I don't know that they ever went away, but they are back. I mean, I think they're bigger than ever. And you see that with a lot of music venues, and there's a lot of great tribute shows coming through town where they don't just sound like Buddy Holly, but the front person really looks like Buddy
oh
Holly
my gosh, yes. Sometimes
and
they do the
moves.
costuming and everything too.
Yes.
Yes.
Uh,
Yes.
do you find that there's a certain balance between how many original shows you want to do and how many tribute shows you want to do?
Yes. The last couple years have been challenging for independent musicians and independent venues. And again, we're not special, right? That's happened everywhere. So while I might like to have more original and less tributes, we've had to just make our peace with a couple things. Number one, they're successful. People like them. And so let's stop being so musically snobby about it and acknowledge that they do offer value
Yeah.
to the patrons. And that also by presenting events like successful tribute shows, that actually enables us to also present shows that are maybe a higher risk financially, just those shows that might not sell as many tickets but are artistically important to us.
Mm.
So in a way, the tribute shows offer us an ability to present the other stuff, right? But for the patrons, um sometimes that's their first experience in a live music venue, and maybe they don't want to take a risk on somebody they've never heard of, but they want to come because they love that band that the tribute show is for. And it'll be their introduction to a performing arts center like ours. And then they're hooked. Then they'll want to come back and experience something else. So we really see it as, something for us to you know, have a friendly, a symbiotic relationship with the tribute shows. Ours do incredibly well. They're very popular with our community and our artists. Um, you know, we do like to avoid having them say back to back on a weekend, where both Friday and Saturday night would be a tribute, but that's not
Right.
always possible. And
Right.
sometimes that's just the way the calendar falls. And for some people, like for example, we just announced a Taylor Swift tribute
Oh my
coming.
gosh.
Yes, coming to the Acorn in December.
Mm.
And I'm not gonna lie, that one was a little artistically challenging for our team because Taylor Swift is a current touring artist.
Right.
Where most of our tributes have all been, maybe bands that you can't see live anymore or that aren't really touring the way they used to. But in this case, the other factor that we realized was how many people are going to be able to see Taylor Swift live that
Yeah.
love her and love her music, you know, because those tickets are very expensive to go
Yeah.
see Taylor Swift live.
Yeah.
So if our theater can give an experience to some young fans, and make it possible for them to sing along to those songs and have that wonderful time, then we're serving our community in that way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you referred to the Acorn as a performing arts center, as opposed to a music venue. Is there a difference?
Well, we are the Acorn Center for the Performing Arts. It reflects the fact that we have more than just live music. Primarily, we're known as a live music venue. It is the majority of what we do, but we have theater. We have had dance in the past, and so we're just a hub for artistic expression of many kinds.
There's Do you have, actually, I know you have, I should just say, will you talk about some specific examples of artists that you've worked with, um, and why you think they're artists more people should know about? There's a lot of people out there doing the thing right now.
Yes, there really are. I hesitate to even, there's a couple of reasons that I love this question and a couple of reasons why this question makes me really nervous. It's like, a parent is not supposed to have favorite children. I'm afraid I'm going to forget to mention somebody and they're going to say, why wasn't I on your list? But also it's going to sound really funny because Andy Sydow is the one conducting this interview. But just the other day, I was literally in the car with my partner, Kevin. We were listening to Andy Sydow. And I actually said to Kevin, more people need to be listening to Andy. Andy deserves to have a huge following. And so it was really funny to me that you would ask that question because I literally gave you as an example just the other day of someone that I think more
Oh,
people
well,
should be
thank
listening
you.
to.
That's very sweet. I
Um,
appreciate it.
Now that I've earned my $10 that you slipped me to say that,
Yes.
um, I think, I mean, over the years, I have certainly presented artists where I look around the room and I'm like, God, I'm so glad these people are here to hear this. Man, I wish there were more. Like I really want people to experience this artist. Abe Partridge is somebody that comes to mind that I just think is such an interesting, talented, quirky, sweet dude. And he's got some really fantastic music. People should check it out. Um, I think of artists from the songwriting competition alumni from the last few years that Karen Bridges and her partner Clint have a duo called Stone and Snow. Uh, you should were they in your year or the year before? They were in the year
I think they were the
before.
year before.
Year before. They were the sort of artists that I listened to leading up to the contest, and I thought, oh, they're going to win this contest. No offense to the person who actually won it, who's also a brilliant musician, Andrew Delaney. But, Sadie Gustafson Zook, who we talked about earlier, Emily Barnes, who was in your year and didn't make the top three. And I just kind of scratched my head like, why? She's brilliant and prolific. She writes so much
Yeah.
and her songs tell such important stories. I mentioned Christopher Gold earlier. He is an artist I think I would love for people to check out, even in terms of his storytelling as well. He's so real. Um, for me, that's always what's attractive. Is there something real here? Is there something vulnerable? What's interesting about the story? Can I imagine myself in it? Um, and those are the ones that I end up loving the most. But not related to the songwriting contest at all. Ike Riley. Are you familiar with Ike Riley?
Well, you showed me some Ike Riley when I
Oh,
was
that's
there
right.
last. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. I don't understand why Ike Riley isn't like huge.
Yeah.
We've had him at the Acorn the last 4 years, and he plays with his band, the Ike Riley Assassination. If you like rock music, my God, check out Ike Riley. I mean, I could listen to him like for days at a time before switching to somebody else. Someone I haven't had the opportunity to present at the Acorn yet, but I'm really hoping is coming up in 2026 is Spencer LaJoy, who I think
Yeah.
you probably know Spencer.
Yes.
Again, somebody that I listen to and I think, wow, I mean, just using music to connect and tell stories that people need to hear.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. Spencer was was one of the Kerrville winners my first year doing it in I think 2021. But yeah, some wonderful names on that list. And
Well,
yeah.
and I mean, no offense to the men that I happen to know and love, but I do tend to really sort of want to see something bigger in terms of impact uh, for female artists. I think, especially with my connection to the songwriting contest. Now we've had a female winner 2 years in a row. Um, but prior to that, I felt like we weren't experiencing women's stories the same way that we're experiencing men's stories. It's just sort of this unspoken expectation going into the listening experience. And somehow it was just taking a little bit more effort to experience a woman's story differently. So I'm not really apologetic about it. I'm always going to sort of tend to want to figure out how to assist in that growth for an artist that I think isn't necessarily going to sort of get the chance otherwise.
Are there any things that you haven't had a chance to do yet, either at the Acorn or otherwise in your career, that is something you'd like to do?
Ooh, what a great question. Um, we, for a couple of years at the Acorn, did a 3-day music festival. And that was incredibly exciting to work on, but ultimately not really a sustainable model right now in our community at this time, as far as how much of a financial investment it is to put on something like a 3-day festival. But I would really love another crack at that. And maybe at the Acorn as we grow into having it sort of an outdoor space, or maybe in some other future venue where there's a way to make that a more of an outdoor experience. I would love to be able to do something like that again. The other thing that I've been really um, starting to think about pursuing it over the next couple of years here in our home is being able to present house concerts. I would really like to be able to do that outside of my work at the Acorn.
Yeah. Oh, that would be
Yeah,
really cool.
right? You can we can plan about it next time you're in town, and I can talk to you about what I'm sort of envisioning. But to me, I feel like those things can be my work at the Acorn and something like a house concert series in my own home. Those could be collaborative, right?
Yeah.
Because maybe it's a preview event that's just to a select audience, and then the full show is at the theater. But it's something I feel so passionate about, and I
Wow.
and I get so much enjoyment in my own sort of spirit through music, and so I just want more of it, and I want to share it.
Did I leave out anything? Did we talk about all the right stuff?
Did we?
I mean, I feel like we did. Do you have anything else you wanna say?
That's a dangerously open question, Andy Sydow.
Yes.
Um,
Could
I
double our
want to.
interview time.
It could. I do want to talk briefly about the next time you're coming to town. Can I do that?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Well, so in the beginning of 2026, we're actually going to be doing a series of events outside of this beautiful theater we were talking about. We won't be doing our shows at the Acorn until mid-February. We're going to take our show on the road, as the saying goes, with a series called Acorn Anywhere. And we're starting out in January with an Indiana bluegrass band called the Debutantes. They actually describe themselves as Indiana Newgrass, but they're a really fun band. And then that songwriter round is going to happen January 31st with Sadie and Emily and Kylie. And the week after that, February 7th, I'm so excited and proud that we're finally able to stage this. We've been working on at least a conversation around this, it feels like, for at least a year. So with your orchestra songs, and partnering with the local music school called Sydow Music Center, and they'll be doing a faculty ensemble, um, and bringing a student quartet to play a couple of your songs. So I'm so super excited about it.
I'm very excited about that, and and this is kind of an example too of some of the things y'all have been doing. Is if it's been hard to book my orchestra show because the way it works is I mean, I don't tour with it. I get local musicians, so it's me with a string quartet and a French horn. Um, and it involves, finding players in a different town and finding the right venue for it. And there's all the financial factors and stuff behind it. It's a hard show to book, but it's a really, really cool show because it's this singer-songwriter stuff, but with this cinematic element. In the times that I have done it live, it's been really neat and a successful show. Um, and so that's something where you said, I'd like to present this show. Let's talk and figure out a way to do it. And that's really awesome. So I really appreciate the
I
opportunity on
mean,
that.
I absolutely love the music. I think what you've done is so incredible. And I think I told you once that sometimes I will choose to start my day with the Measure One EP. I'm waiting for Measure Two. I know music. I know if you have a Measure One, you have a Measure Two. So I'm just waiting impatiently for that. But no, it's absolutely beautiful, and I can't wait to get to experience that live. We're doing that at the Ghostlight Theater in Benton Harbor. which is a black box theater. They primarily do plays and musicals. And I'm just thrilled. I really am just really proud and happy that we're getting to do that together.
Me too. Well, in front of our audience, if you don't mind, stay on the line for just a sec, but in front of our audience, thank you so much, Nikki, for chatting with me. I appreciate it, giving us some insight into what you do. And I think it's going to be a good episode.
Well, thank you so much for asking me, for being patient with me while I was nervous about it, and for making it kind of painless. So thanks, Andy.
You did great. All right, Nikki Gauthier, thank you for coming in. That was awesome. I really appreciate it. There was so much great info there. So I hope that you, the listener, found something valuable there. If you did, and you have a friend who might enjoy what Nikki had to say, send it to him. It takes a second. Just, when you're not driving, shoot it over to him. If you know somebody who's more of a YouTube person and you were listening on Apple Podcasts, you can watch us. You can see our pretty faces while we do this interview on YouTube. But any sharing is greatly appreciated. And kind of helps grow my community and what I'm trying to do here. So I really appreciate that. But thank you for listening. And, I'm excited to talk to you next time. Again, my name is Andy Sydow, and this is Middle Class Rockstar.